See more evidence of probably that the highest levels of government had known about threats to airliners as far back as 96. Another example is the presidential daily brief of December 4th, 1998. Now, everybody knows in general regarding 9/11, those in the circle know about the presidential daily brief of August, I think it's 7th, 2001, or August 21st, 2001. But how many people know about the December 4th, 1998 presidential daily brief, where it specifically mentions a threat to airliners by Al Qaeda and an Egyptian radical fundamentalist group called the Gamma Islamiyah? This is the document here. It was declassified in July 12th of 2004. This is after the congressional inquiries had closed. And for good reason, that this was declassified by the CIA. And it shows that, again, that the CIA had known about threats to airline security. Whether this was disseminated to the FAA, we don't know. But there were warnings to the FAA made after the Bajinka plot of 96 that there was a direct threat to airlines by radical fundamentalist groups. Subject is called Bin Laden preparing to hijack U.S. aircraft and other attacks. That's much more direct than the presidential daily brief of August 2001. And again, remember Condoleezza Rice, the national security advisor under George W. Bush, basically said that we didn't know that there was going to be direct threats to airlines. Well, here you go. Unless this was withheld from the leading Bush officials during principals meetings, then this information was known to even the State Department as far back as 98. Reporting, as you see this is redacted, suggests that Bin Laden and his allies are preparing for attacks in the United States. And I want to just bolden this up a little bit more, right? Including an aircraft hijacking to obtain the release of Sheikh Umar Abdul Rahman, Ramza Youssef, and Mohammed Sadiq Auda, which meant that the person Auda is Ode. He's involved with the 1998 East Africa embassy bombings. One source quoted a senior member of the Gamma Islamiyah, which is the Egyptian radical sect, saying that as of late October, the Gamma Islamiyah had completed planning for an operation in the United States on behalf of Bin Laden, and that the operation was on hold. This is the first time I'm ever hearing that Gamma Islamiyah members were inside the United States in 1998, planning for an operation involving aircraft. A senior Bin Laden operative from Saudi Arabia was to visit Gamma Islamiyah counterparts in the United States soon thereafter to discuss options, including aircraft hijacking. This is a big document here. Gamma Islamiyah leader Islambuli, meaning Islambuli, Muhammad Islambuli, the brother of Khalid Islambuli, the former Egyptian military, I think, lieutenant, who was directly involved with the shooting of Gamal Abdel Nasser, the Egyptian president, in 1980. He was executed for it. Mohammed Islambuli is the leader of Gamma Islamiyah at the time. In late September, was planning to hijack a U.S. airline during the next couple of weeks to free Omar Abdel Rahman and the other prisoners, according to what may be a different source. There's two sources to the CIA regarding Gamma Islamiyah members planning to hijack aircraft in 1998. Unbelievable. And yet this was withheld from the public. Same source late last month that the Bin Laden might implement plans to hijack U.S. aircraft before the beginning of Ramadan on December 20th. This is 1998, just months after the embassy bombings. The two members of the operational team had evaded security checks during a recent trial run at the unidentified New York airport. Now, why is this really big? Why am I reading this? Because this is before the plot hatched by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Now, I say the meeting is alleged I'm not saying a meeting didn't happen. I think it did. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had met with Osama bin Laden and Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, which was set up by the military commander of Al Qaeda at the time, Mohammed Atef, Abdul Hafs al-Masri. The idea for planes hijacking came from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, but how did members of the Gamma Islamiyah, an Egyptian sect, come up with this idea? Now, some members of the Bin Laden network have received hijack training according to various sources, but no group directly tied to Bin Laden's Al Qaeda organization has ever carried out an aircraft hijacking. I mentioned this previously, a long time ago, that Al Qaeda had never done this before. That this idea mainly was by members of Hezbollah or Abu Nidal, right? The old paramilitary organizations that are far more adept at doing stuff like this than, say, a Salafist organization. When I say Salafist organizations, I'm meaning Al Qaeda, Abu Sayyaf, and Gamma Islamiyah. They're not used to, they're used to guerrilla training, not, huge operational planning like 9/11 was. Bin Laden could be weighing other options of operations against U.S. aircraft. According to redacted, the Gamma Islamiyah in October obtained SA-7 missiles and intended to move them from Yemen into Saudi Arabia to shoot down an Egyptian plane or, if unsuccessful, U.S. military civilian aircraft. I mean, folks, Pan Am 103, anybody? Right? Geez. How about that flight that crashed in the Rockaways months after 9/11? I forgot the name of the flight. It's alleged that one of Al Qaeda members was on a plane. There's also rumors that it was shot down. People forget about that, including myself. A redacted in October told us that unspecified extremist elements in Yemen told us, the CIA, that unspecified extremist elements in Yemen had acquired SA-7s. Remember, there's a large Al Qaeda contingent in Yemen that still exists today. This is redacted, indicated that Bin Laden organization or its allies are moving close to implementing anti-U.S. attacks at unspecified locations. Millennium Plot, anyone? We do not know whether they are related to attacks on aircraft. A Bin Laden associate in the Sudan late last month told a colleague in Kandahar that he had shipped a group of containers to Afghanistan, and that Bin Laden associates also talked about the movement of containers to Afghanistan before the East Africa bombings. And that's because there was a cell in the Sudan where Bin Laden was until he was forced out in 96 back to Saudi Arabia. And of course, there's a cell in Kenya led by Wadi al-Hajj, who was arrested in the United States when he went back. Like a fool, he went back and he was arrested for his involvement in the logistical support and financial support of the East Africa bombings. The redacted Bin Laden associates last month discussed picking up a package in Malaysia where the meeting was being held. And this is before the meeting. This is 98. Meeting doesn't happen until January of 2000. One told his colleague in Malaysia that they were in the 9th month of pregnancy, meaning operations. An alleged Bin Laden supporter in Yemen late last month remarked to his mother that he planned to work in commerce from abroad and said his impending marriage, which would take place soon, would be a surprise. Commerce and marriage often are trade words for terrorist attacks. And what is that alluding to? Well, this is after the East Africa bombings. So that means the USS Cole that took place in Yemen. Malaysia was where operations were being planned, but that was in the year 2000. The Millennium Plot, January 1st of 2000. And of course, 9/11, September 11, 2001. I just wanted to read that document to you because it gets lost in time, but there you have another piece of evidence to show that there was a threat to airliners by Bin Laden, Al Qaeda associates, and now the Egyptian fundamentalist group Gamma Islamiyah that originally had planned to hijack the aircraft before Al Qaeda ever did. Why was this not mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report? I don't know. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, listen, short video, but I wanted to bring that up and read it to you. And thank you very much for tuning in, and see you next video. Take care.